Hello Year 9 and welcome to your GCSE Geography Options Evening presentation. I hope that you find the following information useful, and if you have any further questions, obviously feel free to email me, Mr. Cork, or any of your geography teachers for further information. Over the next few minutes of your time then, I'm going to be giving you some further information on this GCSE course. And I'm going to approach this by looking at 4 things that I think are useful for you to know in a bit more detail. The first of these is that I'm going to discuss with you what you will learn over the duration of this course, so the topics that you will be covering. Secondly, I'm going to look at assessment. So we'll be thinking about how we are assessing you over the duration of this course and at the end point. Thirdly, I'm going to think about how this course will help you moving forward, so how it may transition to A-levels and further qualifications that you may wish to study in the future. And lastly, a few messages from some of your teachers about why we think our subject is important, why we think it's something that you should study, because ultimately we love our subject and we want to share that with you. So the first set of subjects you will learn in GCSE Geography is titled Living with the Physical Environment. Now this will involve you investigating a range of different topics, and as you can see here, it refers to the challenge of natural hazards, the living world, physical landscapes in the UK, and geographical skills. Now just to give you some more idea about them, what we mean by challenge of natural hazards is we will look at various topics like plate tectonics, how the earth is structured, building towards looking at earthquakes, the causes of them and the consequences of them, focusing on a case study, 2 case studies in fact, one in Chile and one in Nepal. From there we'll move into the living world, so we will look at different ecosystems, we'll look at the relationships between plants and animals at both local level and at a global level, addressing case studies like the Amazon rainforest and the Thar Desert in India and Pakistan. The third area that this paper will focus on is physical landscapes in the UK. This is where we will address rivers and coasts. So we will look at lots of ideas around river formation, around coastal processes, all building towards looking at different landforms that are created as part of this and looking at how we can manage these environments to make sure that they don't cause problems for human habitation and that we don't cause problems for these habitations. The last area here mentioned is geographical skills. Now what we mean by that is just the general skills like using data, using graphs, using maps, interrogating those to help you learn about all of those topics that I've just mentioned. So on to paper 2. Now this paper is entitled Challenges in the Human Environment, and this has a much more human geography focus. That means we're talking more about us, we're talking about where people live, we're talking about employment, we're talking about industry, and we're talking about population. Now this unit is divided into 4 sections again. You have urban issues and challenges, you have the changing economic world, and you have the challenge of resource management, along with the geographical skills. Now, if we start with urban issues and challenges, what we're talking about here is as cities are growing, as countries are growing, what sort of challenges are they facing and how are they overcoming them? So through looking at a city like Rio in Brazil, we'll be looking at the challenges that rapid growth in those cities has caused. So things like poverty levels, the development of the favelas, and how the government in that country is trying to reduce the negatives associated with those developments. Within Britain, we'll look at Bristol as part of this, and we'll look at how Bristol has developed, particularly within the last 20 years with the decline of industry and how it's overcome the problems that have arisen from the industrial decline. From there, we'll go into the changing economic world, where we'll talk about ideas like Nigeria, and we'll look at how those countries have developed over time and the strategies that they've put in place to make sure that we are developing in an appropriate way, so sustainable management and a variety of other different strategies that are there about how the world economy is changing. Now, the last section there is the challenge of resource management. This is very much looking at how we use resources in the world, particularly focusing on energy here. So we'll look at how we use fossil fuels, we'll look at strategies that we can adapt that are alternatives to fossil fuels to make sure that we have enough energy to last us well into the future without destroying the environment. And lastly, geographical skills. This is very much the same as paper 1. You'll be presented with lots of different maps, graphs, various other sources of data, and from that you'll be expected to draw conclusions, to explain ideas based on the knowledge from the previous 3 parts of this unit. So the last area of your course will be focused on what is termed an issue evaluation, fieldwork, and geographical skills. Now, for me personally, this is my favourite paper, my favourite part of the course for you, because you know what's going to be on this paper before you even sit it. In terms of the issue evaluation, the exam board will release around about 2 months before you sit your exam in the summer of year 11 a booklet. And this booklet will contain a variety of information in it that we will study in lesson and that in the exam you will be given questions on. So we know what that issue evaluation is going to be on. We know what the questions are likely to be. We can forecast a little bit. But the main thing is it's on a topic that we can teach you through, we can develop with you in that window of time before the exam. Moving on from there, you go to your fieldwork. Now, this is the biggest opportunity to do active learning. This will involve 2 opportunities where you will get out into the community to conduct a geographical investigation. That means you are going to put together a question and you are going to investigate that question in your community. Now, you have to do 2 pieces of fieldwork that you will then be assessed upon. One of them has to have a human focus and one of them has to have a physical focus. So for the human focus, we tend to look at urban regeneration. So we look at whether Stafford has been revitalised. So that will involve a half-day trip to Stafford. And then the second one is currently looking at whether the developments that have been made to Chatley Whitfield have had a positive impact upon the biodiversity of that area, whether they have promoted a greater variety of wildlife in the Chatley Whitfield Nature Reserve. So that will involve you going out on 2 trips, as I say. And the advantage there again is that not only do you get to go out, but you know you're going to get questions on these, so we can prep you for that. And the last one, geographical skills, that's the same as what's on paper 1 and 2. It means that we'll interrogate graphs, you'll interrogate data, you'll look at maps, and you'll make judgments based on information that's given to you in that paper. So that's all skill driven, which we can train you with and we can practice upon. On to the more daunting part then, in terms of how will you be assessed. And what's very good about GCSEs now is that they're very clear about how long exams are, how many marks that are on the paper, where the marks are awarded. And very quickly, just to run through a key points on here, paper 1 then will be a 1 hour 30-minute exam, and it's worth 88 marks in total. That's 35% of your GCSE. And what this paper has done is broken apart into 3 sections, but these sections are made up of a variety of different question styles. You have some that are multiple choice, you have some that are short answers, you have some that require you to write more complex structured responses, as well as mini essays as part of this. But the majority of the questions within this paper are worth 1, 2 and 4 marks, with the bigger questions awarded on case studies. Now, similar to the points just discussed for paper 1, paper 2 follows almost the exact same format. It's made up of a variety of different questions. It's 1 hour and 30 minutes, 88 marks, and it's worth 35% of the total GCSE. Again, a variety of questions though, where the majority of them on this paper will be in that 1, 2 and 4 mark bracket. Now, paper 3 works slightly differently to paper 1 and paper 2. You'll notice that the number of marks is slightly less at 76, which means this paper is worth 30% of your GCSE, and as a result of that, the time you're allotted for this paper is a little bit less at 1 hour and 15 minutes. But as I've said to you before, you've made up a variety of questions, 1 and 2 mark and 4 mark primarily. But the big advantage on this paper is we'll know most of what's going to be on it because it's got questions on the fieldwork investigations that you will have done with your teachers, and it's got questions on the pre-release material that you will have interrogated within your lessons. So that's paper 3. Now, in terms of helping you, GCSE Geography is a really useful course because it has lots of areas that it can help you improve on. The first of which is transferable skills. So what we mean by this is the ability to analyse, the ability to interrogate sources like graphs, like data. All of those skills are useful in lots of different subjects. So you can take them, you can learn about them, you can develop them in geography, but you can go into your science lessons and you can apply them. You can go into your English lessons and you can apply some of those same skills to a variety of different settings. And that's also the link that you can pick for the second idea, those strong links to other subjects. At its core, geography fits as a science. So lots of the ideas that we will talk about may crop up in your GCSE biology, They may also crop up in your GCSE physics, and you can use the information and knowledge you acquire within geography to support you in lots of other subject areas. Now, beyond that, it's also useful because it's also helpful because it helps us understand our position in the world. So we need to understand that our interrelationships, our position in this world is dependent upon everything else in this world, and we influence that as much as it influences us. So it will help us to appreciate how we are a key component to the balance of this planet, and how we've got to strive harder to make sure that we live in balance with it so that we don't destroy resources for future generations. On top of that, it also promotes cultural capital. It will also expose you to ideas, viewpoints, and areas of society that you may never have been exposed to before, that you may never have thought about, looked at, or discussed. So it will give you that opportunity to look at other cultures, other societies, and look at how they do things differently to us. And then the last point I've raised here is that it's an opportunity for active learning. That fieldwork component involves you going out for definite for at least 2 days. And the idea there is that you will have an opportunity to discuss things in the public, you will engage with fieldwork techniques, and you will actually be a living, breathing geographer for those opportunities that you're given to go out into the community. So there's lots of ways that geography can help you as you move forward. And then there's the obvious ones like it transitions and supports you going into A-level geography, and if you wish to continue studying within this subject area.
Hello, it's Mr. Williamson here with a short message about why I love geography. So I've always been interested in learning about how the physical processes that control the natural world work, and studying geography has given me a really good understanding of how things like rivers, volcanoes, hurricanes and biomes work. I think all that stuff's really, really interesting. That's only one half geography though, so that's the physical side. The other side is the learning about how humans interact with that natural world, and I think that's really, really, really interesting. I'm particularly sort of fascinated with how some areas of the world are much poorer than others, and looking at ways that we can potentially solve those issues and sort of reduce those inequalities. And finally, I'm really fascinated with maps. Everyone knows that I'll never pass up an opportunity to read a map, and geography has given me the skills to understand and appreciate what I'm looking at. Okay, thank you, bye.
I like geography because everything has a geography, from the clothes that we wear to the food that we eat to the climate we experience and the landforms that we see around us. The study of geography enables us to explore many aspects of the world in which we live and gives us a better understanding of the physical and human processes which shape the world that we know today. Personally, my favourite topic to study is natural hazards, as they're not something the UK commonly experiences, so there's a fascination around them for me.
I like geography because it helps us to understand the world and its processes. Geography helps us to see how people interact and impact with the natural world. It helps us to appreciate diverse cultures and bridge divides and bring people together.